Well, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Jessica Johnson. I'm VP of External Affairs with Talon Metals. I am based at our Tamarack project, which is in north central Minnesota, looking out my window at a nice rainstorm that's happening, but it actually makes me happy because there's no snow. Knock on wood that it won't come back. But yeah, my background is in natural resource management and communications. I have been with the Talon team here on the Tamarack project for almost 7 years now, and my role is really focusing on all things external engagement and social performance as we go through each stage of our project.
Perfect. Thank you. That leads into our very first question. Can you kind of tell us about the Talon journey? Because it's definitely unique from an exploration standpoint, and it's very, very interesting to hear about.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree that our Talon journey has been an exciting one. We started with a management team of 6 people. We first partnered on the Tamarack project with Rio Tinto in 2014. And then in 2019, that's when we officially became the project operator and the majority owner. So we've been the junior exploration company on this project. Tamarack has been our main focus. And over the years, our team has definitely grown and evolved. So we grew from that team of 6 to that mid-level, about 80. And then most recently, we're up to over 500 employees. And that's really from the recent acquisition of the Eagle Mine and Humboldt Mill over in the UP of Michigan. So definitely a lot of changes since I started. I started in 2019 when we had that team of 6, and now seeing over 500 and the whole team come together is pretty exciting. So really, that big change with Eagle and Humboldt is we can now say we're not just an exploration company, we are an operating company with the only U.S. Nickel mine and mill currently in operation. So very exciting, and I think a lot more exciting milestones to come.
Definitely. I had the fun fact of or honor of working up at Eagle for a little bit, and that was probably my favorite project. And Marquette is just an awesome town. So you and I talked a little bit, Talon is unique in terms of the exploration targets and how you guys got started, especially how you handled COVID and your guys is 5 for 5. Do you guys want to talk about a little bit more what do you think the made it successful? Talk a little bit about the discoveries and just lessons learned.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, I think, really the number one thing that makes our exploration unique is that we have brought it fully in-house. So I think when you look at mineral exploration across the mining industry, the standard approach is that you contract out each of the pieces from the geophysical surveying to the drill rigs and the drillers and even sometimes the geologists and up to the resource modeling. And our team really took a different approach and kind of a leap of faith to shake up how we operate. So that really came about during COVID. I remember it was 2020 and the world was shut down, as we all remember. Everyone was social distancing. And that was really when we first became the majority owner and operator at Tamarack. But we couldn't hire any contracted drill rigs, and we couldn't fly in any geophysics surveyors. So we were kind of stuck right at the beginning of taking off on this project. So we had 2 choices, really. We could ride out the storm and just pause and wait for COVID to be over, not knowing how long that would take. Or we could do this other crazy idea we had, which was to purchase our own drill rig and hire our own team. And everybody that we talked to said, do not do that. It's crazy. It's never going to work long term. You'll fail. You're wasting your money. Just don't do it. And we did it anyway. And it really ended up being the game changer for our team. We are now up to 5 Talon-owned drill rigs and a full team of drillers, drill helpers, in-house geophysics, geologists, the works. And we've really built out this team with an in-house training program that we've had. So we've been able to hire a lot of locals to the area to learn on the job. And we've also seen a significant cost reduction just even in our meters drilled and just the efficiency of hitting targets. And I really think that's because of the integrated team, that you have continuous communication from the same team of geophysics surveyors who are interacting with the same drillers, the same geologists, and it's all connected. And I think that just helps across the board with maintaining that efficiency. So I think, it's really exciting and it's not the way that teams typically go about exploration, but it's really worked for us. And I do think it was a big reason for our team getting Department of War funding to support our mineral exploration. So we got that grant a few years ago, specifically from Department of War to support mineral exploration to find more nickel in the United States. And that's what we've been working on.
That's awesome. So let's talk about, kind of what was the biggest hurdle or you think the unexpected lesson to where you guys have gone through the journey today from Talon, and then we can talk about the acquisition as a whole different other thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one hurdle, just reiterating the fact of the challenge to build that team in-house when everybody says it's not going to work. There were definitely a lot of, challenges to go through just with making sure we had all of the right resources and safety and everything to really pull that together internally. But I think it did, work out well. Looking at our project holistically, I think, one of the biggest hurdles is the one that many junior mining companies face, and it's really navigating the Lassonde curve. So, the life cycle of mining, and we've gone through that early excitement of the discoveries that we've made, but it's really navigating, that quieter time of really digging down and doing the technical work that's maybe not always, you know, publicly appreciated all the time spent doing that. So we're really heads down in that part of our process, but really excited to then, move forward and continue developing the Tamarack project and really get it into production.
Awesome. Now, this is not on the list of questions I gave you, but I know you guys were on 5 targets in 5 years. Do you have a favorite target or a more memorable one? And is it the first one that you guys did or a different one?
Oh, there's so many good targets. I am based in Tamarack, so I'm gonna have to pick one from our Minnesota Tamarack Intrusive Complex. I do think my favorite is the most recent discovery of the Vault Zone, which is below our current Tamarack resource that's currently going through the state permitting process. So we have 3 rigs that are actively drilling and targeting the Vault Zone as we speak. This Vault Zone discovery was really like nothing we've seen at Tamarack before. I'd have to look back exactly at the press releases, but nickel equivalent of over 28% nickel equivalent and over 56% copper equivalent. Um, we've really looked through a lot of different public records, and we're pretty sure that this is likely one of the highest nickel intercepts on the planet. So it's just really for geologists, they're picking their brains trying to figure out how this came to be. But for us, it's just really exciting, and it's a new area to be exploring, and it happens to be right below our resource. So really excited to keep seeing what that could become. The other reason it's exciting is because we actually got a sample of it accepted into the Smithsonian. So it is in the permanent collection if anyone goes to tour the Rock and Gem collection. It's there. I think it's in their basement at the moment in the permanent collection, but pretty exciting.
It's still in the building, it still counts.
Still counts. Still counts.
So, usually mining companies will buy the exploration or, they'll buy from the exploration companies they sell off and all that kind of stuff. So, can you talk to me a little bit about the logistics and the methodology of approaching, hey, Eagle's over there. It's not on its last leg, but it's a cool resource. They've got a good project. They've got really good community relations. What made someone convinced to buy the Eagle Mine, and then how did that work out? Well, obviously, you guys bought it, but just methodology wise.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great question because you're right, it's a little bit unique. But really, the relationship between the Talon team and the Eagle team is very deeply rooted. We have a long history already. From a geology standpoint, geologists have always considered Eagle and Talon or Tamarack to be sister deposits, just similar grades, similar geology. They both were discovered by the same geologist. They both started their exploration around the same time. So really from day one and throughout the years, our teams have always been pretty close. We've bounced ideas off one another, shared updates. We've stayed very connected across all of our disciplines. And so, when it came to deciding, to come together, I think there were just a lot of synergies already that made sense, and specifically made sense for the Eagle Mine and Humboldt to come and fall within the umbrella of Talon. If you look at it, Eagle has a successful operation, an experienced operating team, but have been planning for closure with no growth opportunities. And then you look at Talon, we've had a successful in-house exploration team. We have the next development stage project at Tamarack. And then we have the growth potential. We have a significant land package to explore in Minnesota and also in Michigan. We have a 400,000 acre land package that is adjacent to Eagle. So when you looked at all of that together, it just kind of made sense to come together under the Talon umbrella, where the team now can use the Eagle cash flows and the team experience to really develop the Tamarack project, and then also utilize Talon's exploration team and experience for the new targets and feeding, new growth opportunities.
That's awesome. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what does the future look like for both Eagle and Talon? I know the boundary waters have come up in the news and it's been go and then no go, and there's been lots of different changes. It's probably one of the most whiplash areas, I would say, besides maybe Resolution Copper, in terms of like, yes, you have it, no, you don't. So what's the future look like for both of these things?
Yeah. I mean, I do feel optimistic that, the future is pretty promising. For both Eagle team and Tamarack team, we're coming together and we're integrating a lot of unique skill sets, all for the shared goal of developing multiple mines, multiple mills, across the Midwest here with the whole purpose of, building out domestic sources, which I think is, a big focus nationally, of course. Um, in terms of near term, what's kind of our focus area for the future, it really is getting the Tamarack project here in Minnesota into development. We've really put a lot of work over the past 3 years. We've been in the scoping process for environmental review with the state of Minnesota. And we've really taken the approach of, not just listening, but trying to listen and take action and shape our mine design throughout the scoping process to incorporate feedback. So it's not just our project and our idea, it's really encompassing a lot of different comments, feedback, concerns. So I think we've put in a lot of work to create a design that I think is ready to move through the next phase. So we'll have our public comment period for scoping happening this summer, and then we'll be moving into the EIS process with the state. So I think our team is just really ready to be focusing on that. At the same time, we're continuing exploration at full speed. So we'll continue to explore at the Vault Zone here in Tamarack. We'll also be sending rigs over to Michigan. We did have an exciting target just 8 miles from the Eagle Mine. It's the Boulder Dash discovery. I think that was made in 2022 or 2023. So we're really excited to be going back to that and hitting exploration hard to see the potential for that target. Um, so I think the future is busy for Talon.
That's awesome. I love that name, Boulder Dash. Someone watches a lot of
Yeah.
cartoons. Um, you touched a little bit, about the uniqueness of, the drilling and everything else. But the other really unique thing is how Eagles handled community and indigenous relations. I don't know if you want to share a little bit the model of how that lesson learned and how you're applying that to the Tamarack project as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this really goes back to it's been so great that our teams have been connected even before this acquisition because a lot of what we've built here in Tamarack in the early stages comes from the learnings from Eagle. So, early on when we were, still delineating the resource at Tamarack, still completely exploration. We didn't have a mine plan. We made sure that we were starting an open door policy and giving tours and doing community meetings to really be transparent about the entire process. We took that, kind of from the Eagle model and what they've been doing in their community. But we wanted to make sure that we were being transparent even before we knew all of the answers for the project because I think if you wait until you have all of the information, that just gives time for building fear and misunderstandings and concerns. So we've really worked hard to, um, you know, invite the community to learn about exploration each step of the way. Once we got to the point where we had a resource that we wanted to, design a mine plan, we drafted an initial design, but we knew that we still wanted more community input before submitting that mine plan to the state to start environmental review. So we did quarterly community meetings to share the idea of our mine design. And really the purpose was to get that initial feedback on what are some of the key concerns or fears that people still have about, just this initial design before we really get started with the state. And the number one fear that we heard was about processing and tailings management in a water-rich environment like Tamarack. And um, that was an opportunity for our team to kind of challenge ourselves and say, could we look at this differently? I mean, I think we had in our mindset, this is where the resource is, so this is where the mine needs to be. We can't change that. And then we said, well, what if we could move the mine just piece by piece? Um, so that kind of thinking led to the idea of moving the processing and tailings portion of the operation to a different location. So we actually looked at a lot of different sites that had a drier climate, somewhere that we could repurpose an industrial brownfield site and somewhere connected by rail. and we ended up selecting a site in North Dakota for that. And so that, led to the separation of here in Minnesota would be the underground mine and a rail loadout and a water treatment facility. And then North Dakota would have the processing facility and tailings management site. Um, and that really that whole idea came from that community feedback prior to any formal environmental review process. And since then we've continued to evolve the mine design, even with the regulatory comments and tribal government comments we've been receiving. Our mine design here now has a fully enclosed building at surface. So we have a decline tunnel going to the underground. That tunnel is connected to the building on surface. So all operations are fully contained at surface within that building, which really helps with stormwater management, dust control, dust mitigation. There's other benefits like noise and light pollution is reduced just from the operations being inside of a building. Um, so again, just really excited to use, all of these comments and feedback from all different stakeholders to help make the project come together. And hopefully we'll be able to continue that and be similar, once we get to operations to what Eagle has created.
That's awesome. I'm just remembering icicles on the portal. It was always a fun thing to deal with. So you mentioned North Dakota. So how is it, or I guess what are the main differences that you've noticed between, now you have three states that you're doing regulations with, Minnesota, Michigan, and North Dakota. Um, North Dakota may seem easier in terms of just mining friendly, but what are the key differences that people should know about the regulations between the three states?
Yeah, I mean, I think, all three states have regulations and have a process. I think maybe each has maybe a different approach to their process, but that is, one comment we get a lot is, oh, if you're in North Dakota, it must be easier. And I would say there's still, the same level of regulations. It's just maybe a different approach to how you go through them. The other thing with our North Dakota side of the project is we do have to go through an additional NEPA process because we received Department of Energy funding to support that facility. So because of receiving that federal funding, we do have a secondary, environmental review process to be going through that we otherwise wouldn't have had to do. So that does add a little bit to it as well. Um, but again, I think it's just about, with each location you're at, just making sure that you're understanding the regulations, but also building the relationships to understand how to best work together in each situation.
That's awesome. Those were all my questions. I wanted to keep it about 30 minutes of me talking with you. We'll open it up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions or comparisons? Elizabeth, you don't have anything to compare against in Alaska?
I try not to have comments these days, but I guess I would ask one with all of the attention, I guess, on the boundary waters. Is that changing your approach to things? I think it's always interesting when all of a sudden the general populace kind of becomes aware of mining again for a brief moment. Um, so it's just, I wonder, is that changing anyone's approaches on how they're communicating in the, you know, whether on social media or wherever?
Yeah. I wouldn't say, I mean, from Talon's side, I wouldn't say we're really changing our approach at all. I would say just because of that national attention, there's just naturally attention to mining in Minnesota in general more. Um, so there's just that broader engagement where I think there's some people, that say, "Oh, you're a project in Minnesota. Where are you at?" and kind of have to explain, the differentiators with each project. For Talon specifically, our project in Tamarack is on state and private lands. So it is a bit unique that we're not on federal lands at all. So we also get that question of, how does federal support, help your project? And from a permitting standpoint, we really are a state-led permitting process for our project specifically. But I would say that, yeah, that just the attention to mining in Minnesota, you just broadly have a lot more engagement and focus.
Well, I appreciate that answer and it's thoughtful and honest. And I also like that you stated that your approach hasn't changed. And I think that's kind of what most projects and companies are getting to is like, if your model puts people first and puts, your indigenous brothers and sisters first, you know what I mean? Then it doesn't have to be kind of this performative thing. It's like, we just behave this way and we're trying to do the best we can. But I love that your model, it sounds like already kind of was trying to accomplish that long before this. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Yes, I definitely agree that as a team, you have to have that culture built first. And if your values for your company are going to be focused on, community, then you don't have to change your model or your approach because you're doing that all the time.
I love that answer. Does anyone else have any other questions? Quiet group today. That's okay. We appreciate everyone being here. Well, if no one I guess, Jessica, do you have a question for the group? Sometimes presenters like to poke people and be like, what are your guys' projects? What are your unique challenges?
I don't think so. Just wanted to, thank everyone for inviting me to come and chat. And if anyone finds themselves in Minnesota, please stop by because we really do have that open door policy. So I would be happy to give anyone a tour of the project.
And isn't the Eagle Mine still doing the summer tours? So
Yes. Yep.
public
So you
summer
can
tours.
tour in the summer as well.
Well, perfect. I love that. Thank you very much. This was very enlightening, very unique. I've been a big fan of the Eagle Mind and, of course, of Talon for a while, so it was great having you on here. Thank you all for joining us. As always, every third Friday of the month at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. If you want to talk at any of these coffee breaks, just shoot us an email at womeninminingusa.com and we'll work with you guys. Thank you all very much. Have a great Friday.
Thanks.